Well, it subjects any one of, for instance, an anti-Asian or an Asian hate case or some name calling or some physical attack at a university that receives federal funding. That person will have no recourse if the Office of Civil Rights is done away with. So it hurts everybody, and it hurts we know in the past couple of years what has happened to people just walking down the street. We can assume that this animus will work its way into the public education system, the education system. We need a federal government that assures every citizen that they will be protected under the law. Equal protection under law is a principle that is being assaulted and twisted and perverted by this administration.
Okay, Daniel, Nicholas, Kevin.
Hi, please, John, according to an Axios report, the DPCC is advising House Democrats to say on social media that they're willing to go back to the Capitol to vote on a 4-week CR if the Senate were to get an amendment. Is that something you've been advised to do as House Democrats?
I haven't necessarily been advised. This is something that I spoke about with my team. We believe that it's important that we vote on the legislation that not only keeps the government open, but prevents really devastating and harmful cuts to our communities.
Question for Congressman Meng, either for CAPAC or just as a New Yorker. Do you have a position on the Mohammed Khalil case in Colombia?
So a few things can be true, that Jewish American students have not been adequately protected on campuses, including and especially at Columbia. We are also asking the Trump administration to uphold due process in this specific case of Mr. Khalil. It's important that they adhere to federal and constitutional law and that they show and demonstrate evidence of his criminal activity to the American public. Kevin.
Just maybe more 30,000-foot view. As you come up with this election, we have seen basically Republicans make inroads in the Asian voting bloc. What do you believe is the message that you all need to send as a unified front heading into this next election that you think will be effective in reversing that course, based on what you've seen so far, what you're talking about here, et cetera?
Sure. CAPAC members have been working very hard, not just over this last cycle, but over many, many cycles over the last few years, and we will continue to work hard to make sure that we are providing adequate access to information about our government, about what the Trump administration is doing. And we want to make sure that materials, when necessary, are provided in language, that we are meeting voters where they are. And that's, something that we have consistently seen happen more and more in races like in our own backyard, Kevin, with Tom Suozzi's race, where he reversed the assumption that Asian American voters would trend right. Tom met voters where they are. He worked to make sure that they were just as included in his campaign as anyone else. And, similarly to part of what you were asking, a lot of this reaction from Republican voters, the public, including Asian Americans, has also been organic. Last week, a group of Republican doctors in my district who supported Trump heavily asked to meet with me. A lot of them had offices in my district in Queens, and they were so upset with a lot of the Medicaid cuts that have been proposed that they were scared, and they were upfront with me. They didn't vote for Trump. I don't even know if they voted for me, but they were really worried. So a lot of these efforts, aside from town halls that are happening or not, will be organic as well. I just you had your hand up, so if I can let him ask.
Thanks so much, and thank you all for doing this. I'm interested, obviously, if there's Republicans are capitalizing on voter distrust in the federal government, is there a role Democrats should have in maybe countering that distrust, looking at 26 and 28, outside of popular programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security?
Okay, Suhas, go first.
Yeah, I think it's our job to make the American people understand that these cuts to government and these attacks on government are an attack on them and programs that help them a lot. And so if we have a role, even if it's just one role, it's by connecting the actions of the administration to the harm they are doing to the American people and not letting them blame Democrats or DEI or something else. So we look at the example of what happened at DCA, for instance, and the first thing the president did was blame DEI, right? Even though he had just fired a bunch of people at the FAA a couple weeks before. And so we have a responsibility to make that connection. And on the previous question, I want to say that I've talked to AAPI voters that voted for Trump that did not realize he was going to be cutting federal services and the federal government the way that he has and the way that he's empowered DOJ, and they regret their vote already. I think they thought he was going to do a lot on the economy and immigration, and so far what he's done is the opposite of helping the economy.
And I would just add, so to the previous question, at the 30,000 foot level in presidential, obviously messaging was an issue, but if we drill down, we actually picked up a seat in the House, and individual members, folks like Derek Tran, working their community, talking to their community. So we've got to, and we're taking time during this retreat to figure out what that, what was the difference between what we were doing on the ground in our communities, where we have trust in those House races, versus what is our brand at the national level, and what does that look like, and how do we get that out there? And then on the question of cuts to the federal government, yeah, the federal government's an easy scapegoat at times, but most Americans don't actually realize how much they rely on, what's happening in their schools, what's happening in their healthcare. A lot of folks have Medicaid, but they don't actually know it's because it's not called Medicaid. It's called Molina Healthcare. It's called something else. They're going to have a rude awakening if they take that away. And again, we have to make sure who did this and get that message out both in our districts, but then also have a national brand message. So again, the public knows those services that they were getting actually were coming through their tax dollars and so forth. So it is going to have a real impact on the American people in their everyday lives.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.